All right, everyone, this is your Ohio State Fix each and every week, Wednesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time. So if you join us on a weekly basis, just don't revel in it yourself. Bring some people with you, family, friends, social media acquaintances, as we talk Ohio State football each and every week. What do we get to now, folks? Would love to know what you guys are working on in regards to, we'll start with you, Tony.
Nothing specific, just day-to-day stuff. I don't have anything big coming up. It's unfortunate. This is the time, Mark, during the summer where you kind of recharge the batteries and you just try to stay afloat, personally. So that may be a bad answer and something, an answer that nobody else is going to give.
You're suspended for 1 week, Tony. Bad answer. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
I tell you what I am working on, and I don't have enough time to work on it as much as I want, as I would like, is my position by position Big Ten division previews and stuff like that, where it gives me an opportunity to look at every team. And what I like to do is just rank the Big Ten East quarterbacks, Big Ten West quarterbacks, and then I tally them all up after all of the positions are done. And that's how I get my Big Ten predictions on who's going to win the West, who's going to win the East. And then you go back 6 months later and you see how stupid you are.
Oh, I love that. I'll be looking out for that. I love that kind of stuff. I want to know what the Illinois linebacker unit's looking like.
Probably about 7th in the Big Ten West, just a guess, something like that, around there, 7th, 6th, maybe we'll see.
Speaking of which, before I get to the rest of you, speaking of which, would you guys like to rank Big Ten coaches?
Oh.
I mean, I got to stop at James Franklin, number 1 right there. I mean, at least that's what CBS said.
It's so hard to do because
I'm not talking about right this second. I would allow you guys to prep. Maybe we come back next week.
James Brian Day has no body of work to where you can compare him against Mark D'Antonio, who's now been a head coach for 15 years, and Kirk Ferentz, who's been a coach for over 20 years. It's an apples to oranges comparison. If you want to base it off, how accomplished they are, how they have positioned their team to succeed in 2019 and 2020, that's an entirely different answer. So, what and Harbaugh and Franklin are going to fit somewhere in the middle. At least Franklin's won a Big Ten. D'Antonio's won a Big Ten and the Rose Bowl. Ferentz, has I think he's been to the Rose Bowl. I don't know. I don't remember.
Oh, yeah.
He's won a year 74 times.
Yeah. So, he's been the coach of the year 44 times. So, and you look at, you got the guy at Minnesota who was great at Fleck, who's great in the MAC, in a cup of coffee there. And now he had one great season at Minnesota as far as, they beat Wisconsin. You got Paul Blart there at Wisconsin. How does he fit into this?
Jeff Brom, too. Don't sleep on him.
Yeah, and Brom just getting started at Purdue. I mean, how do you compare? I think
that's what we do. Steve. It doesn't have to be justified. You just throw rankings out there.
Okay.
No, this is the way I do it. And all the angles that you mentioned, Steve, certainly can play into it, and everybody can use their own framework. I basically say, okay, if I was building a program, if I was starting if I wanted a head coach for 2019, this is how I would rank them in regards to who I want coaching my team. And then I need to justify it based on the body of work and what they've accomplished, but more so recently versus what Mac Brown did at North Carolina 20 years ago and justifying my ranking for him among ACC coaches.
How can they make a rap video? That's got to be top on the list for Jim Harbaugh. He makes a really good hip hop video.
There was a line in Real Genius, I like obscure 80s movies, where Val Kilmer said something. He was asked about how he measures himself, and he said by height. So that's how I'm going to rank my coaches, by height.
But Mark, you're talking about who you would draft or whatever, who you would pick. where do you put Ryan Day in there, and then how do you
Yeah.
justify that?
Okay, this is the way I justify that is basically I take the coaches that I believe are doing a good job, who have somewhat succeeded at their jobs, and then I take the coaches that I believe have fallen short of the expectations and are not performing well, and I slide the newbies, the first-year head coaches, in between those two groups
The real question
because
is,
they're neutral right now.
if Pat Fitzgerald were not at Northwestern, you know, he's got to be a lifer, right? He's a Northwestern guy. He's going to be there forever. He'll have a job for the rest of his life. He's exceeded every expectation the Northwestern football program has ever put in front of him. But if he coaches somewhere else, let's just say at a Nebraska, do you think he would have been either more successful or less successful?
I think he would have been very successful. And to answer the first part of what you said, I saw a report where he just came out and said that why would he ever leave what he considers to be, you know, the best situation out there for him and his family is Northwestern.
Well,
But I think that that guy's been impressive to me, you know, for the last 10 years, because I know how bad Northwestern was the previous 30 years.
right.
And, you know, other than the Barnett, you know, 95, 96, whatever. But, you know, beyond that, Northwestern has not been a successful place. And, you know, certainly he played for Barnett and got kind of the blueprint on what it took to be a success there. But he has taken it and put it at an entirely different level. I mean, they have NFL players now at various positions on that team where there were probably a lot of years where there wasn't even a Northwestern player in the National Football League in the 70s or whatever. So, yeah, I think, you know, I give him a ton of credit, no doubt.
I think the more relevant question, Claire, to Steve's point as well, is that not would Pat Fitzgerald accomplish and succeed at other places, but how many people would succeed in the place where he is? I think he's a good enough head coach to move on to any program and be successful, but how many guys would be successful at Northwestern? Yes, he was the right fit and continues to be. And I've already done my homework, so I've got pages and pages on these guys. I shot a video 3 or 4 months ago, so I got my number one guy on through 14. So, yeah, Chris Ash at 14. That's the one thing I'll unveil at this point.
Mark, maybe you should do your coach rankings based on who you think would do the best at Northwestern.
Yeah, there you go.
Northwestern being the control, you know, and see how it goes there. Because
the controlled environment.
How do you think Nick Saban would do at Northwestern compared to, you know, Pat Fitzgerald?
I have always said, wouldn't that be fascinating? You take these mega coaches who have both the track record and they had a hand in building the mega giant at Ohio State, Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, Alabama, but obviously they have all the facilities and the resources and everything working for them. And it would be great at the end of every college football season if we could do this experimentally. Take Nick Saban, go to Kansas, Urban Meyer, go to Oregon State. I would be fascinated to see how much they could do with those teams with the existing talent, just based on sheer will, poise, leadership ability, how many wins they could squeeze out of those teams would be fascinating.
We already know Nick Saban can't win in the Big Ten because he didn't do it very well at Michigan State. I think Urban Meyer could go to Indiana and win the Big Ten East within 4 years.